All right, so this is John Cooper, and I am here with Peggy Forbes, and Peggy is the Vice President of Bawaajigewin Aboriginal Community Circle in Oshawa. And Peggy, maybe we could just get some ideas about, I'll call it BACC for short. Maybe tell us about the idea behind Bawaajigewin Aboriginal Community Circle.
Yeah, okay, so it's really to represent Durham region, and because there's no or very little services in Durham region for Indigenous people. Sorry. And really what we want to do, what we've been trying to do, it's taking time, like years, but to maybe forward thinking, having our own space, because right now we borrow space out of Caria Community Health Center to meet and to do some, like we've done speaker series, that kind of stuff. But in the future, we hope to have our own building or space that we rent even, and be able to provide services for Indigenous people.
And what did you first have the concept? You've got a number of directors on the board.
Yeah,
and
there's
so,
9 directors.
Okay. Yeah. And was it sort of an aha moment, like we need this now, or did it develop over time?
It developed over time. There's another group called DRAC, Durham Region Aboriginal Advisory Circle, and that started first. So that's years and years ago. And then Julie and I got on DRAC, that committee, and Bawaajigewin actually came out of that. It was sort of, you know, the project that they founded, I guess, right? With the intention of being fully Indigenous people on that community circle, and working towards, we're nonprofit, and we're very close to being having charitable status. And then we've done some really, really good things. But what we find when we're fundraising, when we approach companies, they're anxious to work with us or donate or whatever, but they want that charitable status, right? That receipt. So
they get a tax break if they contribute.
They will, yeah. But right now, until we get it, they're not as anxious to donate and work with us.
So you're working towards that.
Yeah, yep.
All right.
Very close.
And so some of the core ideals that drive the organization, and maybe some of the short and long-term goals. I think you touched on one of those when you talked about the charity status. But what else are we looking at?
To get a space would be really perfect. And then because we write proposals, you know, for different purposes, and we've been successful. And we had like a whole speaker series of having people come in and talk, which has been really well attended. And other things, lots to do with the youth, Indigenous youth. But it would be better if we had our own space. Yeah. Because, as I said, we're borrowing space right now.
You're currently on King Street?
Well, no, like we hold our meetings at Caria in South Oshawa. Right. But I think in order to do all of this, Mary needed to provide an address. And I don't know if it's a P.O. box or her own address, to be honest, right now. But like it's legit and everything. Yeah. But
you're really looking for a more permanent space.
Right, exactly.
All right. And maybe I could add, so you touched on this as well, but how are you involving others within Indigenous communities and in the mainstream community to get on board with what you're doing?
Okay, so we have 9 directors and then a number of other community members. Like anybody can sit on it and be part of it. And then we do have relationships with other organizations to do collaborations. Because, you know, why should we all be standalone doing the same thing? Right. You know, doesn't make any sense financially and manpower as well, right? And it's good to have those relationships. And with any of those proposals, really, they want to know, like, are you working with other community organizations?
Oh, that's good. And maybe we talk about, are there major challenges that the organization faces? I mean, we talked about space, right? But are there other major challenges, and what are they?
Yeah, the fact that I think all of us are full-time workers somewhere else, right? So it's really, it can be tricky moving things along in a very productive way, time-wise, right?
Mhm.
Because we all have lives, right?
Mhm.
But it can be done because just over a year ago, a small group of us did a fundraising um, event called The Secret Path, you know, the
Mhm.
Gord Downey,
Yes.
yeah, Channy Wenjack and Gord Downey.
Mhm.
So that was really successful. We held it at, oh my gosh, no, the Regent Theater,
Mhm.
which holds almost 600 seats, and I think we sold 580 seats, so it was hugely successful. Half of those ticket proceeds we donated to the Channing Wenjack
Mhm.
Downey Fund, and then actually the money that was made from that is going to be used to do the charitable status.
Mhm.
There's legal fees, of course.
Yeah,
involved,
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. Maybe we just talk about, are there any key life lessons that you and the other directors and the the president have applied to the organization in terms of bringing something of yourselves to the organization?
Yeah, we have a pretty diverse group
Mhm.
of Indigenous people, like doing all various different jobs, right?
Mhm.
So I think that in itself makes it interesting because we're not all doing like what I do, you know?
Mhm.
So we have other people that can just bring other life experiences and expertise to the table,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's quite helpful. I don't know that we always get along or agree, but that's normal.
That's
Right?
all right too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
human nature.
Yeah.
So, but it's an interesting group, and I think we've been making really good progress.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, do you have an anecdote or two when you say, "Hey, this makes it all worthwhile"?
Well, doing that secret path was a huge amount of work leading up to that, like,
Mhm.
because there was only four of us, four key people really doing it, and we organized it and arranged it in 8 months, and when it was coming closer and closer to the date, we were meeting like twice a week, so a lot of time and energy went into it,
Mhm.
but to see the turnout and the support was hugely successful. And it was like, wow, this was so worth it,
Mhm.
you know.
And what are the main things that BACC is going to be doing in the community?
Um, Providing services, like youth is coming up, a couple of things for the youth.
Mhm.
We hope to have, and it really depends on the calls, you know, whatever's out there, proposals. And, but we'd like to see more for adults, because
Mhm.
that's a big gap.
Mhm.
Carrie, their small team provides things for children and teens, but adults are really where there's a gap.
Yes. And CARE is the other social service agency that's
Yeah,
in the
health center.
community.
Yeah,
Yes. Mhm. Okay.
in Oshawa.
That's great. And maybe just in general, do you see the future of Indigenous community services evolving, and in what ways?
Yeah, I think this is a beginning, and it just it takes a long time. That's the thing,
Mhm.
right? So, but I think it's the beginning of something greater, right? Because having lived in Durham Region all my life, it's been really kind of frustrating not having Indigenous anything, organization supports, nothing. So, you know, you'd have to go to Toronto or Peterborough, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I worked in Toronto for 15 years because I wanted to work with Indigenous people.
Mhm.
So it just meant I had to travel, right? So now it's convenient for me to have this
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
and so close to my home.
And we're looking at what, information, health services?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Anything from, you know, children to seniors.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, all of it. Like, it can be really useful. What people don't realize is that there's over 12,500 Indigenous people here in Durham Region.
In Durham Region.
And that's old stats.
Mhm.
That's not even recent at all.
Mhm.
You know, so there's probably a lot more.
Are there other agencies like BACC already?
Yeah, kind of, because, I mean, things like Friendship Centers started somewhere, right? And probably very much like us. And whether it's called a Friendship Center in the end or not, or whatever, it'll be a place where Indigenous people can go, they recognize themselves, they feel comfortable, and they know that they can get the supports and services that they need.
So there's definitely a need for that in the community.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And I thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.